Hi, Valley Fourth Church. Welcome. I'm Pastor Josh with Pastor Joe today for your Community Connection. And we want to talk today about a new sermon series.
Yeah.
And we'll save a couple announcements for the end. So we're going to get right into it. Joe, on Sunday, you mentioned during your message that you're going to be starting a new series. Some of our folks may have heard that or caught that, or maybe they weren't here or missed it. So tell our viewers, what's the new series you're going to be starting this Sunday?
Well, we're going to sweep through Hebrews chapter 11, just the one chapter. Well known to a lot of people that love the Scripture. It's been known by many titles. The Hall of Faith is the most frequently mentioned one that I've heard. It's a collection of teachings about the essence of faith and examples of how people, particularly in the Old Testament record, lived by faith. And so I'm going to entitle it Faith Stories, the Lives and Lessons of Hebrews 11, because both are in there.
Yeah.
There's some biographical teaching from the Old Testament, and then there are certain teachings about faith that are nestled in the middle of it, as you know.
Well, good. Yeah, I was very excited when you first suggested the idea, of course, and
That's because Josh is an Old Testament guy.
I do like the Old Testament,
Yes.
of course.
And if you attended his study on Wednesday night this past week, you learned how extensive his rolling knowledge of the Old Testament is. I learned a lot.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. So you started to get into it. Maybe tell them a little bit more. Why for today? Why do we need to think about faith and see these examples of faith lived out?
I think as I've looked at how Christians have grown in how we live out our faith, faith in certain privileged contexts where we have a lot of what I call external trust points to live on, when we're in a prosperous culture, when we're in a secure culture, when we're in a technologically advanced environment, all these things make moving through the ordinary challenges of life kind of artificially easier compared to where most people live today, outside of our cultural context, but also people in history. And so I think for a lot of reasons, faith is a lesser developed dimension of how we live our Christian lives. And so I wanted to just move into this. I don't even think really, Josh, we understand faith as in its essence today very much. And I do know that we don't know how to live it out practically. And so this is as much for me as anyone else to deal with this undeveloped issue of knowledge and action. But also, I think that the people in Hebrews 11 demonstrate that they learn faith through the challenges of life. Virtually every person will study, the minor characters and the majors, learned to live by faith in unusually challenging situations. And let's face it, as our world continues to move forward under God's sovereign plan, challenging situations may indeed mushroom. And so it's an equipping series for us to learn to live and challenge by faith. So those are the two things that were stirring in my heart.
Yeah, and those examples are great, to give us tangible examples. And they're not perfect people. We'll see some of their flaws as they seek to live out faith as part of that. So that's great. Well, do you want to give them a little sneak peek into a verse or two?
We can look into one text particularly.
Okay.
Hebrews 11 starts with a few verses defining the essence of faith, verses 1 to 3. And we're going to spend quite a bit of time in that foundational understanding of faith. And then it goes into the examples, mostly from the Old Testament record, of men and women who lived by faith and some others who didn't. And there's a duo right at the beginning, Cain and Abel, right? And we remember the essence of that story, that Abel was a keeper of sheep and Cain was a worker in the ground and in terms of just working in agriculture. And they each brought to the Lord an offering. And God had regard for Abel's offering, but he did not have regard for Cain's. And out of that, a lot of people know the rest of the story. There also came the first murder in human history, where Cain murdered his brother Abel shortly after this. So it had to be connected.
Yes.
And so the question that people ask is, why did God accept Abel's offering and not Cain's? And there are a lot of different interpretations of this. We kind of have to make some educated interpretation of this, and there may be dimensions in which the nature of Cain's sacrifice was not what God perhaps had asked him for, and other dimensions like this. As we were talking about this offline, just as pastoral staff, yourself and myself and Pastor Sam actually as well, we talked about another dimension of this question that isn't often talked about. And that was and is the fact that faith is a matter of a sincere heart.
It's
a sincere heart. It's a hard issue. And we'll see that all the way through the chapter. And we can also look at the nature of the heart that Cain brought to this. And there are questions about that, and maybe you can help elucidate it.
Yeah, I think from the narrative in Genesis 4, we see, right after Cain's sacrifice is rejected, that he moves to murder his brother. Yeah. And that tells me that he brought his sacrifice with a bad attitude and a bad heart. And there's many places we could go in Scripture, even the Old Testament, where they said, you bring your sacrifice. The heart matters. You bring the sacrifice by faith. And then we come to our verse here in Hebrews 11:4. I don't know if we read it for them yet.
No, go ahead.
By faith, Abel offered to God a more acceptable sacrifice than Cain, through which he is commended as righteous, God commending him by accepting his gifts, and through his faith, though he died, he still speaks. So the author of Hebrews gives a little commentary, and says Abel brought his sacrifice with faith. Maybe implying that Cain didn't have faith. We don't really know. But we're going to focus on Abel's faith and what a great example that is for us.
We do know he had faith.
We do know he had faith,
Right.
and that faith pleased the Lord.
Right. Yeah. And you look at the Old Testament commentaries about how when Israel was bringing her offerings to the Lord, the offerings were often brought, but God said, why are you trampling my courts with all of this pomp and circumstance, but your heart is far from me? You remember that? I think that Isaiah mentions that, Malachi mentions that. And so the heart of how we serve God is essential to him.
Yeah, just as important, if not more important than the actual things we do, is the heart
Absolutely.
attitude that we bring.
Yeah.
That's challenging, convicting.
Big
Oh,
time.
man.
Yeah, because we're in an American religion of action, and we believe if we act right or believe the right thing or do more of the acceptable things, we are in line with what God's purpose is. But no, as I think you talked about this last night or Wednesday night, you talked about the passage that talks about man looks on the outward appearance, but God looks on
The heart.
the heart.
Yeah, the heart is what matters. So
It really is.
that'll be a good theme as we're learning about
Yeah,
faith in Hebrews
yeah.
11, because faith is a heart issue as we learn to do that. Well, we'll just close up with a couple announcements for you here. Joe mentioned a couple of times our Wednesday night Bible study. So we just started that this week. Our first one was on Wednesday. If you missed it, those are available to watch on YouTube anytime after the fact. And we just had a great time together studying the Old Testament.
We had two audiences, live audience and streamed audience.
Yeah,
So not
we
forget
had
that.
some people in the room. We had even more watching online, and some that have been watching even since then.
Yes.
So that's just a great thing we can do together midweek. I also want to remind you there's a Bible reading plan going along with that. If you haven't subscribed to those emails yet, you can get that on our website. Another announcement relates to a women's retreat, and this is coming right up. I thought it was like a long time away, but it's right around the corner. October 2nd to 4th, women's retreat at Ross Point in Idaho. Things are a little different in Idaho. The masks are not required. They are going to, clean and keep everything, on the up and up. But you go to our website, valleyforth.com/women, click on the button for Women's Retreat. You can see all the details, the schedule, the speaker, who is Beth. Beth
Taylor.
Beth Taylor,
Yeah.
thank you, from CF that we know and love. And
Yeah.
so they're planning a great time. You can register and pay online and get all the details. We encourage you to go to our website for that. So I want to give you one really short verse of encouragement as we close today. It's from Romans 12:12. It kind of jumped out at me as a verse just for our current living situation. It says, rejoice in hope, be patient in tribulation, and be constant in prayer. Good reminder to us.
Amen. Absolutely. Follow that verse out over the next few days, and we will see you Sunday. Remember, early service is at a new time, 9 a.m.
Yes.
and also 10:30, and we're live online streaming at the 10:30 hour as well. So thank you guys for checking in with us, and we'll see you this weekend.